Jonathan Brooks was a polarizing pick in fantasy drafts this summer. Coming off a torn ACL at Texas, Brooks was a step behind in what many considered an underwhelming running back class. With his standard unknown going into the season, Brooks went from a surefire early pick to gracing the later rounds of the draft and in some occasions not being rostered. Now that we've waited for the return, it's time to break down the reward that fantasy owners may get from Brooks in the coming months. On this first play, we're going to discuss the gifted athletic profile that Jonathan Brooks shows. While he wasn't able to participate in the combine and verify any of this through numbers, he shows on the film that he's a fluid athlete with great acceleration. On this rep, Brooks is going to have a simple inside run. Once he scans the field, there isn't much to work with on this play. If we look, once he gets the ball here, you've got number 4, who's covering this gap. You've got a defender that can probably get off his block. You've got another guy here to worry about as well. If you're going off to the left, if he decides not to cut this over, you can see already he's going to plan to at least go to the right in some way. He's got to worry about a defensive end lined up on the tight end, and he's got a linebacker that's waiting to see where he's going to go and would be in position to make the play. So this leaves Brooks in a situation where the only real option that he has is to take this straight up the gut. So drawing how he's going to deal with this, you're going to see right here that he's planted his foot. He's going to do this again, counter inside here. And instead of trying to, make a guy miss in a tight box where he's not going to really have the power to get through those tackles, Brooks is not really much of a power rusher. It's something you're going to notice on the film. He's going to drive behind his offensive lineman, who is currently winning this rep here, able to push his guy back. And so Brooks takes advantage of that. So we'll watch that play out here. So Brooks is going to plant his foot again. He's going to get upfield. It's going to freeze this defender. He's not really going to be able to do much here. And instead of trying to, say, get through this gap and not really having the power to do it, Brooks is going to run directly into his lineman, and he's going to follow him downhill. He's going to get his head downhill, and he's going to fall forward for what is an extra yard or two on this play. So overall, getting a little bit extra out of a play that there really wasn't a whole ton there. We'll watch it back here once again. So, it's just quick, smart running from Brooks, getting up the middle, getting through the best lane, and getting the most out of this situation. A lot of people are going to have their reservations regarding their belief in the Carolina offense, especially when we're talking about the offensive line. In 2023, Carolina, per PFF, was the 5th worst run blocking unit in the league and arguably did worse in pass protection. But obviously, we're focused on run blocking here. Carolina made some major investments in the offseason. This is one of the reasons why I feel a lot different about this situation than maybe I would have, early in the offseason, because they went out and got guys like Robert Hunt. They got guys like Damian Lewis, who have performed really well for the Panthers so far. And now you can see that they go from being like a 53, which is subpar, to all of a sudden this unit is ranked among some of the better ones in the league. Even better in pass protection as well. So Carolina now looking like an actually good offensive line unit. And you look at guys like Damian Lewis now, 65.7. Robert Hunt, 72.1. These are really good grades for these guys with the Panthers, and you see the investment really coming to life. So that changes things for me. These are also players that are physical. These are players that want to maul you. You can watch that on their film with their former teams. You can see it this season. They're guys who you're going to have a lot of trust in that regard, and it bodes well for how that play that we watched can translate to the NFL for Jonathan Brooks. Now let's talk about one of Brooks' most exciting plays from his last season with Texas. On this play, Brooks is going to take an outside run where the offensive line pulls with him to the left. What makes this play so special for Brooks is how he manages to set up defenders and extend the play. So they're going to pull to the left here. He's going to start to come upfield, once he gets about maybe 10 yards out, and try to extend this play. So watching this develop, you're going to see that this is really good blocking overall from the Texas offensive line. As we get going, it's going to be a huge hole that he's going to be running down, right? You've got quite a bit of room. I mean, he's not really being touched here. He's not being that threatened. He's got a really easy gain right off the bat. So, really good blocking from Texas. What is going to be special is what Brooks does with the next part of this play. He's got to worry about two guys at this point. One being number 30, who's currently being blocked, but still, has good leverage at this point. He can get off that. He can be a threat if Brooks tries to threaten to the left. The other guy that he's worrying about is the safety in number 1, who is an open space. He can make a tackle here, but he is really the last line of defense on this play. What Brooks is going to notice is that number 1 on this play has a ton of momentum coming downhill and towards the boundaries. So this area of the field is relatively unblocked at this point. Brooks is going to get by this defender pretty easily. Number 30 is not going to be able to defend him over here. And so Brooks gets kind of filthy with this play, and maybe a little bit too unnecessary as well, because I think he could have maybe just took this straight up over here. But what Brooks is going to do at this point is he's going to do this little double move where he's going to threaten inside. It's going to freeze number 1. And he's going to cut back. He's going to split the gap between the two defenders and knock off a huge run here. So we'll watch that develop. This is filthy. Watch number 1's legs here. Freezes him in place. Then Brooks is taken off at this point. Now, here's going to be our first major criticism of Brooks through the video. And no, it's not a fumble. That's the good thing, right? But Brooks is not really he's not really a high-level athlete, right? He's not someone with like elite traits in that regard. He is a very good athlete, I would be willing to say, but he doesn't really have that elite speed for a player that, is obviously not much of a threat as a power back. I mean, he still knows how to use his strength. He's smart about that. We're going to give him credit there. But this is our first criticism in that he's just not going to have those elite physical and athletic traits that you're going to look for. And this was one of the reasons why I wasn't really super high on Brooks coming out as we rewatched this play. You had the ACL injury. You had the strength profile, which was questionable, that maybe limited what he was able to do. And then you've got the lack of elite overall speed. So, while this was concerning for me at the time, it does not mean in any way, shape, or form that he is a highly limited fantasy football player. He's still someone who's going to offer a lot, and especially in other areas of the game that we have not talked about yet, such as his receiving ability. An area where Brooks showed a lot of upside in his last season with Texas was the receiving game. Heading into 2023, Brooks only had 3 receptions to his name, but he managed to take in 25 of 29 targets in 2023, with the bulk of these really coming in a 3-game span where he played against Oklahoma, Houston, and BYU. So it showed in that span that he can really handle a large receiving workload. And that's going to be something that I think the Panthers are going to probably be giving him at some point this season, pretty early on. When head coach Dave Canales was asked about Jonathan Brooks following the 2024 NFL draft, one of his quotes went as this: versatility, get him out in space, perimeter screens, check downs. We have a really cool empty package. This is an area where I don't see a ton of competition, or at least strong competition, in the Panthers' backfield. The obvious guy you have to talk about is Chuba Hubbard, as he does have a lot of receptions this season, a lot of targets, and it's consistent, right? It's usually 5 a game. It's good stuff to see from him, but this is an area where it's not like he's necessarily overperformed. You look at the total yards, he has not hit 100 yards on the season, despite a whopping 23 targets, of which he took in 22. He's averaging 4.2 yards per reception. And while I don't think that comparing college stats to NFL stats is always a good thing, it can be very much like comparing apples to oranges. You see this 4.2, you compare that to an 11.4 from Jonathan Brooks, who really is just starting to show his ability there, has more upside. And the quote from Dave Canales, I mean, it's hard for me to look at this and say that they would not give Brooks the receiving role in this offense. So with that early selection, it's hard to imagine this statement being anything less than genuine, as it would ultimately be a massive waste of resources to go out, spend pick 46 on him, and then not have him as the receiving back, which was an area where there's a lot of upside for Brooks. So we just brought up Dave Canales' comment on getting Brooks in open space. So let's see an example of what this looks like on this reception. So on this play, Brooks is going to end up taking what is an outside handoff, or at least fakes it, we'll say. And instead of picking up the free rusher that's going to come off the edge, Brooks is just going to continue past him. And he's going to be open in the flat for an easy reception here. He's going to be wide open on this play. Now, you'll see that 70 isn't going to actually block this guy. He's going to be getting upfield because they're setting up to get blockers in space in front of him for him to follow. And you see here, lets the free rusher go. Quinn Ewers changes directions. Now Brooks is wide open in space. So at this point, Brooks is going to have to make a few defenders miss. Because when you're looking at 70 up here, which is Christian Jones, he ends up missing this block, which, I'm not trying to knock him too much. It's a hard block. It's a faster player, and it's an open space. So Brooks has two defenders to worry about. He's got one that's going to be a major threat to him if he tries to take this outside or beat the guy to the edge somehow. So that's really out of the options. The other defender is this guy, who is really in position to make the tackle if Brooks isn't able to elude him, regardless of wherever he goes. What's important here is you've got 4 players for Texas that are lined up here that might be able to help him upfield. At the end of the day, it actually doesn't end up being all of them that get super involved in this play. There's really only one that makes the play, and it's not even the offensive lineman. And you even see this guy is just completely out of position here. So Brooks, what he has to do is he has to find a way to extend this play. So he's not going to take it outside. It's not an option. He's going to take this inside. He's going to cut inside and try to make this defender miss. So we're going to see his cut here. He's able to change directions fine. It's not as great of a cut as you'd like, but he does it a little bit early, and this defender is still in position to make the tackle, but ultimately ends up putting in what is kind of a weak attempt and really just gets his arms around him, which Brooks is able to run through just fine. Now we look at where he's at here. You've got all these blockers that really don't have a huge impact on this play just because Brooks is already getting upfield past them, but he's able to beat these defenders, and he's got a lot of space up here. You might be able to see you've got a blocker at the top of the screen, and you've got another one way upfield around the sideline. So at this point, this might be a play that Brooks is able to score on ultimately. So what he's going to do, he's just going to get vertical here. He's a really good accelerator. He's going to have one good block here from Xavier Worthy, who's just going to at least get in the way, force this guy to take a poor angle, and he's not going to be able to get to 24. You're going to get your second eluded tackle. It's not really going to be that intentional, but 28 is going to try diving for Brooks. And ultimately, this is going to be around the end of the play because Brooks, as you'll see, is not able to get past these defenders and ends up getting taken down pretty quick and kind of forced inside there because of the tackle. This guy gets off his block. He's lined up, I think that might be Gunnar Helm. We might talk about it next year in the NFL. And Brooks ends up going down there. So, ultimately, a really good play in open space. He's able to extend it. You see a lot of the upside there, but I do have a gripe from this, right? And that is the struggle that I see, to some extent at least, in Brooks not being able to redirect plays that strong. He's able to cut all right, but it's not super impressive. It's not going to be that elite elusiveness that you want to see. We'll watch this back again. But this cut here, he does it early. It's not as strong as you'd like to see. And the defender has a shot there to get him down. Now here, you wonder why not cut outside. Maybe make a move like that. But he's ultimately not really able to and just ends up falling forward. So a little bit of a gripe, not a huge deal. But just one of those things I noticed watching him before the draft and still going back and watching the film now. It's something that I would be monitoring this season. So this next rush from Brooks is going to show us some really good vision and a quick reaction to what could have easily been a blown up play here. It's going to be similar to what we watched earlier, where you're going to have the offensive line pulling out to the left. Brooks is going to follow them, and he's supposed to try to find the open lane that they're going to create and get upfield for a nice gain here. Now, the key difference between the last play we watched that was similar is that this offensive line is not going to completely do its job. You're going to have one blocker who is going to kind of miss his assignment or at least miss his leverage. It's going to allow one of the defenders to end up leaking into this play, which we're going to see here. I believe it's this defender. Sorry, 42. And he's going to be in position to get into the backfield. And if Brooks doesn't redirect this, if he doesn't figure out something to do here, this is going to be a loss for Texas. But what you're going to see here is a really quick reaction from Brooks to redirect this run inside and extend the play a little bit, and it really does not just die there. He's going to end up making that defender miss, going to force him out of position. And if you look over here, he's still got an opportunity to follow these blockers. Even if he doesn't have that full head of steam that direction, they're still, for the most part, doing their job on this play. So you've got this guy going down, you've got this guy in position, and Brooks is going to follow that, end up extending this run, and as you're going to see on all of these plays, he gets his head down, he falls forward, he takes the contact well. He's not really someone who's getting just blasted into the next day. Even if the strength is a little bit of a concern, Brooks does a really good job of leveraging himself and taking advantage of momentum on these plays and ends up falling forward for a couple extra yards here. So nice play from Brooks, and just seeing that again with falling forward on all of these plays. So we're going to end this on a nice, simple inside run where Brooks is going to show some really good decisiveness and that great acceleration that we've talked about. Now, once again, well, I've noted many times that Brooks isn't really an elite level athlete. There's still a lot of promising traits to his game, and arguably the strongest that he has is that quick acceleration. So this is going to be a simple run. He's just going to take this straight up the middle, ends up pretty much being unguarded on this play. I'm not sure if he even ends up taking contact overall, but it's a really well blocked play from the Texas perspective where they're going to have this tight end going to come over and make a block on a free rusher. The center is going to end up pancaking one of the defenders, and they're going to get lucky with the way that Kansas defends this. So as you see Brooks take the snap, you see this block come in, 65, it is going to end up pretty much wiping out the middle of the field here. Now, we're watching these two linebackers as well because it'd be easy for one of them to just come up and plug the gap. But instead of doing that, 15, he's going to be completely out of position. And this guy is just going to engage with one of the linemen. Really poor decision from him. And Brooks is going to notice this right as soon as he gets to the line of scrimmage. You got A.D. Mitchell coming in for a block as well on one of the last guys that's really available to make this play. As soon as Brooks sees this, he's going to accelerate. He's going to hit the gas. He's going to get downfield, and you're going to see here, he is gone. No safeties, no one to defend, and this play is over the moment that he reaches the second level of the defense. So really nice play here, and while we talked a little bit about that top speed, it's not that he's never going to be able to get a touchdown, right? He has that acceleration to just break away. It's just when you're going up against those really great athletes, there's more of a question there at that point. And on this play, none of them were really in position. So to wrap up my overall thoughts, I think we have to factor in not only our own evaluations of a player, but how the team perceives them as well. Even if I wasn't super high on Brooks coming out of college, I can understand that Carolina invested a high draft pick into him, and they see him as a do-it-all back. Now, even for all the good that offers, I don't think that means that Brooks is going to be a one-man army taking on every carry. That's not really that likely to see. I'd fully expect him to split carries with Hubbard throughout the season and probably take on the majority of the receiving work. That kind of role in an offense that's functioning better than maybe the early weeks indicated, gives Brooks a nice floor and an enticing ceiling. He's a player I'd gladly keep rostering, and I might even consider floating trade offers to other teams that have him if maybe they're disheartened by the extra weeks of waiting. So, with that all said, I want to thank you guys for checking out this film breakdown. If you've enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content as we'll continue to post frequently throughout the season. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.